And I remember that first day writing in my journal, everything that I was afraid of didn't happen. And from that moment on, I started to change my expectation when it came to travel and the people that I would meet.
Are you a woman over 40 who feels that solo travel might be a catalyst for you and your reinvention, but you're still afraid to book that first trip? Then this interview with Dawn, I think, is going to be really inspirational. In the first half of her story, we talk about how she got her second divorce and how she finally decided to start facing her fears, and then how her number one fear was also her number one desire, which was to travel solo. And if you want to see the first part of her reinvention story, you'll find a link in the description below. And now in the second part of her story, we learn how not only is Dawn not afraid to travel alone anymore, she's now incorporated solo travel as an ongoing self-care and self-love practice into her life, after having only traveled alone in her 40s for the very first time. Hi, my name is Hannah, and after burning out over the age of 40, I decided to rediscover what I really wanted and reinvent myself to be who I really wanted to be. Along the way, I'm talking to other women in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, and beyond who have reinvented themselves to show me and you that no matter where you are, no matter what it seems like, you always have more options than you think. So welcome to She Reinvented. So in the second part of our interview, you're going to hear all sorts of great tips and advice about solo travel as a woman over 40, how to use the solo travel experience as a reinvention process, and then she shares the evolution of her own solo travel journey. We also get into how she budgets and plans for traveling every year, because now she's made it a part of her life. So this episode is all about how solo travel can help you to reinvent as a woman over 40, over 50, over 60. So let's get into the second half of Dawn's story.
Most of the things you're afraid of don't actually happen. Like it doesn't happen that way. Like you have all these thoughts in your head. It just doesn't happen. But in the meantime, you have all this anxiety, right? So
Yeah.
remember I talked about peace being really important for me with the ex-husband. And so that became one of my mantras in my life. Like I need peace. I need to, but it starts here from
Definitely.
within. Yeah.
Definitely. By knowing and accepting yourself. Is that a transformational trip for you, or was it just a fun trip?
I think it was a little transformational. It was. I left that trip wanting to live in France.
Really? Where were you in France? Which towns did you visit?
So we did Paris, Versailles, and then we left Paris and traveled south into France. So we stopped along the way, like Aix-en-Provence. I think there was a place called Bern, something like that. We ended up in Nice. I loved Nice. I loved it there.
Yeah.
It's by the ocean.
I don't think it's the cheapest place in France, but I
I
know
didn't
it's
move. I'm
beautiful.
still in the US, so clearly I didn't do it. But I said, if I were to live in France, it would be the southern part of France.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'm done with Paris. I don't ever want to go to Paris again. I tell people I've been there twice and it just doesn't impress me. The other places are so much more beautiful.
Yeah, France is beautiful.
Mhm.
Now, did you have to take time off of work to do this? Was this
Yeah.
like a week-long trip? So you're just kind of getting your vacation days, I'm assuming, as you're
Mhm.
just
I
logistically speaking.
maximize vacation days. If I have 20, I take them all.
Okay, good. And you save them up to all be together, so you can take all
Hannah,
20s at once?
I took this travel thing so seriously. When the year starts, I know where I'm going.
Wow.
Yeah.
So you've decided travel is a priority, therefore I'm
Yeah.
prioritizing travel in my life.
Yeah. And I realized that after I burnt out in that job and lost my marriage, I started realizing like this job stuff is great, but my life is more important.
It really made you reflect on your
It
priorities.
did. It
Yeah.
did. And so
Mm.
I worked hard, but it's like I'm taking these vacations and no, look, we're gonna plan them early enough so they get in the calendar at the beginning of the year and they get approved. So no one says, well, we didn't know about it. It's there at the beginning of the year. I used to plan it out because I
Wow.
would start paying on them, right? Because I had to start thinking about the money. I'd
Mhm.
start paying on them and stuff like that ahead of time. So,
Mm.
yep.
Yeah. So
Mhm.
what would you say now you've traveled several times since then. Now
Yeah.
travel is something that you talk about. What was your most, um, transformational trip that you ever took? Could you choose? If there's one that you feel like, wow,
Yeah.
this really did something to me.
Every single one has done something almost. The three that I can think of. New Zealand was my real first long distance, long haul solo trip. I wasn't
Mhm.
supposed to be solo, but my friend that was going with me canceled about 3 weeks before. And I was
Wow.
just like, I'm going. I guess it's just meant to be that I'm supposed to be going by myself. Remember my little phase, myself in project plan? That wasn't in the project plan. I wasn't
Mm,
ready to go that far away on my own yet. But it
yeah.
sort of was like, here you are. You gonna take it or not, you know?
And you had already bought your tickets, you already had things
Everything.
prepared, and it
Mhm.
just so all of a sudden, instead of going with somebody, you're going on your own. What was that
Yes.
like?
Scary.
Again? Was this
Again!
before or after France?
This was after France.
This is after France,
In
okay.
fact, France was in February that year, and I went on this trip in April of that year.
Now just logistically speaking, through your job, how were you able to get so much travel off or
My
time off for
job was
travel?
pretty generous with vacation time. I
Okay.
think I had like 22 days a year. And then what I
Okay.
would do is I would save, like, I wouldn't use all the days from the previous year. So I would,
And the
that's
carryover.
why
Okay,
I
so
had to
basically
plan
you
it
were
really well.
very deliberate about
Yes, ma'am. I had a
planning this all.
spreadsheet.
Nice. See, this is the type of information I like to hear because I use spreadsheets for everything, and so it helps me to know that other people do it too.
Yes,
Yeah.
I would consult my spreadsheet. Like, can I take time off then? Like, do I have enough days? Oh, yeah.
Mm. So what was this travel, a solo trip like to New Zealand?
So New Zealand was um, more, again, being okay with the way I travel. So I
Yeah.
got to New Zealand. Uh, I didn't have any data on my phone. I remember this because the other day when I started traveling again, I was concerned about data. And I'm like, what are you doing? You've done this before. But I found my way, went the wrong way on the bus. Y'all noticing a trend here?
That's I was gonna say that's a reoccurring theme, but maybe call it the scenic route.
Um, but there was a moment in New Zealand when I went to one of the little barrier islands of Auckland. So I went to the northern island. I went to this barrier island and it was gorgeous. And I remember just sitting there crying. I was feeling so blessed and so privileged to be able to get on the plane, the whole thing, get on the plane, do the planning, having the guts to go by myself,
Mhm.
to be safe, to feel. I didn't ever feel completely unsafe, but because I try to be smart, and I was just so grateful. That was a moment I had so much gratitude for all of it, like just all of it. I remember that moment every time. And at that point, New Zealand was my favorite place. Like Auckland, I wanted to move there too.
What was it that you loved so much? I've never been to New Zealand, but everyone I meet who's lived or, traveled to New Zealand loves it so much. Why?
Auckland reminded me of home because it's an island. It's
Okay.
a lot bigger, but it was weird. I was my last day there. I was walking in the city. So I clearly had gotten comfortable enough. I was walking around and taking the bus and doing all this stuff. And there were sounds in the air. I don't know how to explain it. It just reminded me of home. And
Mm.
I think it's because there's ocean nearby. And so there's almost like an automatic echo of the sound because of the ocean. And I was like, I feel like I'm home. And I was like, gosh, I think I could live here, but it's just too far away from my family. It's like,
Yeah.
it would take me a day to get home. I can't do that.
No,
Yeah.
it's so
So
far away.
that was the first place, Hannah. The second trip was I took to Europe. That one I wasn't supposed to be by myself either. I was meeting a coworker and we were renting a car to drive from Amsterdam to Brussels. He couldn't drive, didn't have a driver's license, but it was his idea to drive. I was like, I'll drive. I'm sort of this
It's his
adventurous.
idea that you would drive.
It was. Then I get to London because I'm in London for a few days before, and he says he's not going to make it. And I'm
Wow.
just like, what? You were supposed to be my guide. I didn't really overplan that trip like I normally do.
Mhm.
But my intuition was telling me before that, like, he's not going to show up. I heard
Mm.
it. So I asked him directly, are you coming? And he said, yeah, whatever. And I was just like, I'm feeling this thing. And I get there and I end up meeting a lady that I met through a Facebook group, and she was like, Dawn, it wasn't meant to be. You need to figure out what you're supposed to learn from the situation. Like, you're here. I took the trains back and forth. I drove by myself on highways where I couldn't understand the signage.
This was in Amsterdam. Wait, no, this
I
is.
did. So that trip I did London, Amsterdam. I stopped in Ghent, Belgium, Brussels, and I went back to London. So it
Mm.
was like I call it my planes, trains, and automobiles trip because I literally traveled on all of those.
And you did it all by yourself.
All by
This
myself.
sounds like the type of transformational trip that, some people
It
take.
was.
What did you learn about yourself during this trip?
That I'm capable of more than I think I am.
Mm.
And again, all these things I'm afraid of, they don't manifest themselves. The one of the huge lessons I've learned traveling, and especially I think because I'm from a small town, a small island, is like all the things you see on the news about this person getting shot, that one got murdered. They are literally exceptions to the rule.
Mhm.
The majority of the people in the world either are ignoring you, right? Because I got
Mhm.
ignored a lot on that trip. Like, I'd be like, I'm standing here. Can you, like, what's up? I got ignored a lot. Or they're happy to help you.
Mhm.
And they don't have malicious intent towards you.
Yeah.
I got lost on that trip. I had people, well, I not lost. I got to places where I thought I should be, and there was no one around. A random stranger comes walking down the street, and they literally walk with me.
I've had
Like,
that happen too. It doesn't always
yes,
happen, but it's so nice when people just walk
yes,
with you to show you where you need to
yes.
go.
And
Yeah.
they didn't, and I, granted, they don't, I was like, do you speak English? And they did. That was the thing. It was like, oh my gosh. And so that whole trip, I was taking in the meaningful stuff, like what am I going to learn? Like, how does this change me when I become a person who should help somebody else, that type of
Mhm.
thing.
Mhm.
So it was very transformative. And then the last one, Hannah, I just took in June. I went to one of the islands in the Azores, and they're a
Mm.
autonomous region of Portugal, everybody. And that is my favorite place to go. Like, people would ask me, what's your favorite place? And I'd say, well, I loved Auckland. I don't know if it's a favorite, but it was the one I liked the most. But now I know that place
Really?
is gorgeous.
That place is your favorite now. I've
Yeah.
never been there. Tell me, what is the Azores? Tell me why.
Oh
Why?
my gosh. It has everything that you would want on the planet. Like, it's so amazing. I was like, it's like God decided he would just drop all the beauty in one place. It's an island. I don't know if you're getting the theme here.
I'm definitely getting the theme.
I
Although
realized
southern France is not an island, but
no,
well,
but Nice is
okay,
on the coast, the
Nice is on the
Mediterranean
coast.
coast, the
Mhm,
beach. So I've also learned that I there's something about being near the water that works for me.
mhm,
I've noticed that. I mean, I'm from the island, so maybe that's why. But I
mhm,
have found my most peaceful moments in travel, even in the US, is if I'm near the ocean.
mm.
Um, the Azores had mountains, volcanoes, hot springs. My favorite flowers,
Sounds
hydrangeas, they were everywhere,
wow.
lining the highways,
That sounds
hydrangeas.
that
Like,
sounds so beautiful.
I was like taking a hydrangea pick of the day. Like, this is the hydrangea pick of the day because I took 50 of them. Just the best one. And at that
Wow.
moment too, Hannah, I found out. So I'm laid off again.
Mhm.
I don't know. We probably have to another episode to talk about this transformation.
Maybe, but
Um, but at that point, I just started again to look for the meaning.
mhm.
I had planned that trip to the Azores from since last year. I booked the flight last year, and I was so grateful because if I had to make the decision this year, knowing I would be laid off, I would not have gone.
Wow. Yeah.
But
It
going there, I needed
there's
it.
there's a reoccurring theme, it seems like God, universe is kind of making you take the types of trips you didn't think you were gonna take, but it turns out that was the type of trip you needed to take.
Yes, yes,
Mm,
definitely.
mm.
Most definitely. It's like, and again, I was so taken aback by ingratitude for the privilege. Like, not everyone has the determination or the desire or whatever it is, like, or even if they did, they can't do it for
Mm-hmm.
different reasons.
Mm-hmm.
And so I try to stay in that gratitude
Yeah.
and try not to take it for granted. Like even people when they met me in the Azores, I was on San Miguel, they were like, "So you're by yourself?" I'm like, "Yep." They're like, "Really? Wow."
And so
And
at
I
this
was
point, what was the difference between you just recently in the Azores by yourself versus Dawn, who went on her first solo trip in San Francisco? How are these two people different?
I will say that I'm a lot more savvy. I don't make as many novice mistakes as I did before. Not novice mistakes, but novice assumptions and stuff like that. I still do sometimes. Like there was one I did with the Azores, but I can't remember what it was. So I do check like when are the public holidays
Okay.
before I choose a date.
Yes, that's smart.
because the
That's
trip
something I still don't think about. So that's actually a really good tip. Yeah.
because the trip to Europe I mentioned, the planes, trains, automobiles, I booked it during holidays. Got to one city in in Holland in the Netherlands. I'm like, where is everybody? I said, I wonder if it's a holiday. And I Googled and I had planned my trip during two public holidays in both of the countries I was going in.
Oh my gosh.
I was just like, darn it, you are still a novice.
This is just a reoccurring until you get this lesson, we will keep
Right,
on putting you in this situation.
right.
Now you know.
Now I know. Look, it's one of the first things I check. What are the public holidays? And I recheck it, like, make
That's
sure.
smart. That's actually
Yeah.
something I don't do, but I'm going to start doing that now.
Yeah, yeah. So the difference was, I've had more experiences.
Mhm.
I tend to be a decent a bit more patient with
Yeah.
myself and also like the traveling stuff because
Mhm.
things happen. But one of the big lessons that I was learning on the Azores trip is that I do have this tendency, and my therapist called it dichotomous thinking, where if I'm thinking black or white, I think it's negative,
Mm.
like something bad's gonna happen. So maybe that's part of my whole fear thing.
Mm.
And one of the first days in the Azores, it was gorgeous, Hannah. Everything was going really well. And I was like, is this real?
This can't be real.
This can't be real. Like something's gonna happen. And I heard the voice say, it can be good. It really could. Like, why do you have to expect something bad?
Mhm.
Expect good things.
Do you think this is something that travel has given you, this shift in mental perspective? Like, was this something that you did in your daily life that you would expect
No.
the worst, maybe?
Yes. Oh,
And
definitely. That's why
and
the therapist said to pull it out for me. Like, you're
has
doing this.
and has travel helped you change that? Like, can you take that new perspective and then replicate it in your day-to-day life? Does travel help you to do that, or
I
has
think
travel
it
helped you to do
does.
that?
I think it helps to reinforce it when things go, when they go well. And
Yeah.
especially when it comes to people.
Hmm.
Um, don't say that I think people are gonna be bad. I don't really have that idea, but I'm sort of like, are they gonna like, you know, who's that person coming down the street? What are they gonna do? That type of thing. And so I think that's definitely something. But I think the traveling alone allows me to have just more introspection, like more, it almost puts me in a place where I'm like, okay, especially like the nighttime, I don't go out thing.
Yeah.
I slow myself down a
Oh.
lot when I
Mm.
travel. I don't get up in the morning and just get going. I literally take my time. Now, granted, I'm a techie. I was a project manager. I have this thing I call dawn pressure. It's always in the back of my mind. Like you were saying, you're supposed to be doing this. You had that plan. Da, da, da. And I'm just like, it's okay. So what if you don't do it? Who's gonna
Hmm.
know? It's just
Yeah.
you.
Yeah. Exactly. So
Slow
true.
down. Listen to your body. It's vacation.
Yeah. You're supposed to be enjoying yourself.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it's all, I think it's just like at the beginning, I said so many transformative moments, so many transitionary moments. And I think too, Hannah, I think if you decide to look at life from that perspective, there's always going to be something you can learn.
Yeah.
You just got to take a step back and say, okay, what was that? What was I supposed to learn from that? And it'll always be there.
Hmm. Yeah.
chasing after you.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. It sounds like definitely the lessons will keep repeating themselves until you learn them.
Yes.
At
Yes.
least I believe that. Yeah.
No, they do. I agree
Hmm.
completely because my therapist also said to me that I am having a college major in trust. Which,
Hmm. So travel has helped you increase your trust, kind of in God, in
yeah,
the
in
universe,
God and in
and being
myself.
taken care of, and
Yeah, and
yeah,
in myself too.
and
Yeah.
yourself. And
Yep.
when women come to you who want to travel, plan a travel solo trip, are they just thinking of just a fun trip, or are some of them kind of looking for a transformational experience? Are they at a pivotal point in their life? Maybe they've just gotten divorced. Maybe something has happened. I guess my bigger question is travel versus travel is just for fun, which is also great,
Mhm.
versus travel is kind of like, almost like self therapy, a transformational
Ah,
self
yes.
therapy.
So I think if they've been watching my life, they're looking for that transformational self therapy because
Yeah,
that's what I talk about.
yeah,
It helps me to heal.
yeah.
It
Why do
was
you
a
think
coping mechanism.
it's a coping mechanism?
Mhm.
Why do you think travel helped you to heal? Or what aspects of travel? What was it about travel that helped you to heal?
So remember when you asked me about the toxic marriages, whether they toxic, what was my self-worth like?
Mm-hmm.
It helped me regain my self-worth
Mm,
because I started to see what I'm capable of.
yeah,
Like I can have my flight canceled in Auckland, New Zealand and get home, right? I can get the coworker doesn't meet me like he's supposed to and I figure it out and I do what I have to do to take care of myself. It's like you can do tough things. You can do challenging things.
yeah,
It's all in you. I'm still learning it because I
yeah,
like we said, it's the lesson is always repeating itself and it elevates. So you go from one level of it to the next, just like you matriculate through school. You know, you start from the elementary, then you go to secondary or whatever, then you're in college, you might get your master's. I'll probably have a JD and trust and not
yeah,
fairing.
yeah.
The time I'm
That's
80 or 90 years old, you know.
Yeah, it's huge because if you don't have trust, then you don't move forward in so many things. So this has
That is
given you
true.
the muscles that it takes to move forward.
Yes,
And
exactly.
you did something that I think is really cool. In 2021, you just started hosting these virtual gatherings called Magical Moments. Now, tell me how that came about. We're kind of skipping over some years, and
Yeah.
what did that mean to you? And what was that like?
The pandemic threw me for a loop, a
Hmm.
personal loop. I really had grief. I couldn't travel anymore.
And that
It
was
was
your
my
coping
coping
mechanism. That
mechanism.
was your coping mechanism.
So in that first year, when people would say, "Oh, Dawn, can you be on a Zoom?" I'd be like, "No, I Zoom at work. I don't want to, I'm on calls all day. I don't
Yeah.
want to do that in my spare time." And but while the pandemic was happening, there was these people I've been connected to, whether through travel or different things, and their lives were like, I mean, they were having these miracles. I thought, like their lives were blowing up. They were literally, and I know this now, the picture of you put in the work and consistency, and at the right time, with the right opportunity, if you're there, you blow up. Because in the pandemic, they were trying to find people to talk to about stuff. Like if you
Mhm.
were a blogger doing something, those folks in media were looking for you, right? So that
Yeah.
was one of my big lessons. I had stopped blogging and all kinds of stuff over the years. But anyway, but I was doing work one day, and there's a song, there's a group, a Christian group called For King and Country, and always forget the name of the song. But in the chorus, it talks about how I have to let my voice out and how it's so important to talk about whatever. And it hit me that day like, oh man, it's really important that we have these testimonies of these good things that are happening. And I just had the impression that I should have this virtual meeting where the people whose lives I'd seen had been transformed or blown up come and share their story. And I sat on it for a little while, but it wouldn't leave me alone, Hannah. Probably just how you are with this podcast. It
Mhm.
does not leave you. It always comes back. So I did it. I knew the people. I reached out to the people and we had one meeting, and they were like, "Oh my goodness, Dawn, this was so good. You should have another." I was like, well, that wasn't in the plan. This is a one-time thing. I don't even like video.
It was on Zoom, a
It was
one-time
on Zoom.
Zoom? Okay.
Yes. I was like, "Y'all, I don't like video." They were like, but you were so good. And I'm like, I'll pray about it. I saw a lady one time on Instagram said the Christian's version of no is I'll pray about it.
That's funny. That's funny.
But I did. I did not pray about it. I kept my ears open.
Yeah.
And I eventually realized, okay, this is something I'm supposed to do. And so, for Hannah, I got phased into miracle moments. And 3 years later, I'm shocked, like I was still doing it. But I did it at my own pace. I
Yeah.
chose a pace that worked
Yeah,
for
you
me, which
didn't say to yourself, "I'm gonna have this huge thing." You just said, "I'm gonna do one meeting." Just
I'm like,
one
right.
meeting, like a virtual gathering
Mhm.
with some people that I know who's
And my goal was not large audience or anything. My goal was, and I knew it. I was like, I don't care about the numbers. I
Mhm,
believe that the people who are supposed to be here are going to be here, and they're going
mhm,
to get what they need from it. I'm just trying to create this environment where people can get some hope
mhm.
in this tragic time. So initially, it was called Miracle Moments from the Pandemic. That
Okay.
was the first name, but after a while, the pandemic went away. But there were still miracle moments.
Yeah. Ho
Yeah.
how do you reach out to people now? How do you find these people?
So
Or do
it's
they find
changing
you?
now. I
Mhm.
I look, I'm a scaredy pants. I was literally just doing my Facebook
Well, you
community.
keep saying that, but it doesn't really sound like you are, but
I
so what
know.
you're scared you can't, but you just
I
do
push
it
myself.
anyways. Yeah.
Yeah, I do. So I was doing my Facebook community pretty much. And every once in a while I shared in like a Facebook group if I felt real courageous. And but now I know that there's more. Like I know that it needs to be more people need to know about it.
Yeah.
And so I have to figure that out, right?
Yeah.
So I might do a podcast version of it or something. I'm not sure quite yet what that is, but I do understand that I have to push past my limits so that more
Mhm.
people can be touched.
Yeah.
And that's what drives me a lot.
Yeah, and you've practiced that through travel, you've practiced that through other things, but this is a muscle that it sounds like for you
It is.
especially, it's like you keep on working this muscle and it
It
keeps on
is.
getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah,
Then you started a podcast in
I
2024,
did.
and the podcast is called Bites, Bits, and Brilliance, and it's for
Yes.
women in tech or just anyone in tech?
Underrepresented people in tech
Underrepresented
mostly.
people in tech. Okay.
And I interview underrepresented techies who have 15 plus years of experience or they have a senior role. And it
Mhm,
was very on purpose because I was being mentored by people that I admired. And I started to realize, and I'd seen it in the different social groups, that people were always looking for mentors.
mm,
And they would get the whole thing like, oh, well, you can't just ask someone to be your mentor. It's not, it feels weird. It has to be authentic. And I'm like, that's true, but these people need something.
mhm,
And it just hit me one day, wait a minute, do a podcast on mentorship, but people just share their career stories,
mm,
lessons learned, things I wish they knew. Cause I think I was going to ask my mentor a question like that or something like, what do you wish you knew then that you know now? And I was like, oh, everybody want to know that. Or what did
mhm,
you know then that has taken you through all this time? And so it just planted the seed and it just germinated. And again, it wouldn't let me go. It just wouldn't. And I put myself in a hard deadline because I was getting overwhelmed by the semantics of how to do it, right?
yes. How did you get through that? Did you use your project management skills to do that, break everything down? Did you have a coach?
No, I did it myself.
Mhm,
I got online, I looked at blogs, YouTube videos, and they were all like, "Oh, you need a mic. Oh, you need this." I didn't have any of that. I was just like, "I don't have the money to spend either. I'm not this is like philanthropic work. I'm not trying to charge people."
yeah. I mean, you could if you wanted to, you could spend so much money on podcasting at
Right. And
first.
I
I
knew that that would
decided
be
not
my
to do that at first, but yeah.
yeah, I knew that would be my barrier as well. And
Mhm.
I needed to take away the barrier
Mm. Yeah.
because I know myself. If I put the barrier there, then it's like, "Oh," and then I just won't do it. I'm like, "That's not a barrier. Remove it. Go into it imperfectly and be okay with that. You're going to make progress along the journey." I literally talked to myself and said that. And I also knew that when I turned 50, which is next year, there were these big changes I wanted for my life, Hannah. And the podcast was almost like a seed I was planting for those changes. And so I was like, you need to get this done. And what I did was I knew I had a list of people that I had as potential guests. And one of them was one of my longtime friends. He got me my first job. And I said, I'm going to start with a person that I feel comfortable with. And I asked him, I said, hey, I wanted this podcast. Would you be my guest? And I said, we're going to do it on Zoom. I'm not over editing. I'm not doing none of that. They're going to get it like it is, authentic.
Mhm.
And that's how I started, on purpose, imperfect. Yeah.
Great tips. Great tips. That great tips. I mean, there's so much more that I want to ask you, but we are over an hour, and I feel like
Yeah.
this has been just so full of so many great stories and
Hmm.
takeaways. One takeaway that I'm hearing is just lessons will keep coming to you, and be open to them. And
Yeah.
sometimes what you're afraid of is the lesson for you. It's the muscle that you need to
Hannah, you put it
work.
in great words. That was a perfect summation.
Yeah, and for
And it
you,
is
it's
a muscle.
overcoming fear and trusting yourself, and building confidence in yourself.
Yeah.
And obviously, with reason, because you did all these things. You traveled solo, you got divorced, you got your master's degree, you started a podcast. I mean, these all seems like a lot if you say it in a list, but each time it was just that one thing that you were focused on.
Yes. It's like you said, I love that muscle um analogy, because I say to people, you can practice your way into something else.
Yeah, into being someone
Into
else.
being someone else. Like
Yeah,
people will tell me now, they're like, stop saying you're shy. It's not true. I'm like,
yeah,
you don't understand. I practiced.
yeah,
I
yeah,
constantly put myself in uncomfortable situations,
yeah.
and I just kept on
And you
practicing.
kept
And I would
practicing.
realize after a while, like, wait, you went back to your old self. Like, you need to challenge yourself again. It was a
Mm,
constant. I became a very intentional, goal oriented person after that last divorce, and after realizing I'm 40, 41, and at 50, I want a different life.
Sometimes it's
Yeah.
that time pressure
Yeah.
does have
And
you
Hannah,
just.
at 40 years old, our bodies are changing fast. That was the other thing that was my push. Like,
Mhm,
the things I want to do, my body may not be able to do at 55.
mhm.
That's just the truth. It changes just like that.
Yeah. So if you can practice, if you could just take some little small
Yes.
goal or thing you want to do and practice that muscle.
Exactly.
I'm not saying it's easy, but it
Right.
is possible.
It is
Yeah.
possible. Yeah.
And so we're going to wrap up here, but what are your
Mhm.
plans that you have coming up that you're excited about? Next year is your 50th. What's
Yes.
on the horizon for you?
So I told you I got laid off.
Yeah.
I was just like, God, can you be this ironic? Like 10 years ago, I was laid off. I was going to make up for 40 and 45 because I turned 45 during the pandemic. I didn't get to do what I wanted for my
Mhm.
40th birthday. And you know what God said to me? And everyone, if you believe whatever you believe in, that's my
Mhm.
personal faith. Like, the answer wasn't direct, but it was almost like I thought about it. I was like, yes, God's just ironic. Because as you mentioned, Hannah, this is the lesson I'm supposed to be learning. And I knew at that point, like, this may be the same lesson, an elevated classroom, but I can audit this class.
Mm.
I don't have to take a year like I did in 2015 to figure out, like, what am I supposed to learn from this? No, you already know the answer.
Yeah.
And let me just add, everybody, miracle moments that virtual gathering had taught me, because all those women that I talked to about their stories, they had similarities, a lot of moving in faith and taking big leaps of jumps of faith and then taking action. And then eventually they saw the result. And so it was like, yeah, this is your turn.
Yeah.
So I'm
Yeah.
starting my own business, which is
Cool.
huge. I'm going from being an employee of 28 years to like my own boss.
Wow.
I don't know where's the money going to come from. And then I still want to travel, y'all. And I
Mhm.
just refuse. I'm like, I'm not doing 40 again.
Mhm.
I'm going to celebrate my 50th birthday, so much so that I just decided I'm going to southern Spain next year. I put my deposit down. I told you this is what I do. I plan.
I think that's smart. That's smart because then you have to stick to it because you've.
Yes. And I'm telling, everyone, the universe, God, whatever, like I have this faith. This is going to
Mhm.
work out for me. It can be good. I am not living a life that's restricted by fear or scarcity or whatever it is, because most of it's based in fear.
Yeah.
And so that for me, it was like, you need to, this is a signal. Do it.
Well, a reoccurring theme in your life, and maybe all of our lives, but definitely in your life that you've shared so far, is that your fear is not founded. The fear will not be a problem. Whatever you're afraid is going to be a problem. Actually, it turns out it won't be a problem for you.
Hannah, this is beautiful, Hannah. Thank
Thank
you
you.
so
Thank you
much.
so much for taking the time. I mean, I feel like I have at least another hour full of questions, but what we've covered so far has been awesome. And if people want to find you, they can go to @courageous_DWY on Instagram, but where else?
I'm also on LinkedIn mostly.
Okay.
You'll find me there more. I'm more active there. So I'm Dawn Butler on LinkedIn.
And I will obviously put all the links in the show
Yep.
description.
Thank you, Hannah.
Thank you.
Everyone, all the best.
That's the end of this interview so far. If you want to watch the other half of this interview or see how another woman reinvented herself over the age of 35, you can click on this next video here or on the playlist there or in the description box below. And please let me know, how would you reinvent yourself? Please write your answer in the comments below. And if you like this video, the #1 way that you can say thanks to me is to hit the subscribe button and then hit the thumbs up button for this video.